Hello, and welcome to our 16th D&D 3.5 Prestige Class Review. Today we're going to be looking at the Tattooed Monk Prestige Class from the Complete Warrior Sourcebook. I'll be giving my thoughts on the Prestige Class's concept and execution, as well as its prerequisites and class features. I'll also give my thoughts on various builds that could incorporate it, as well as some suggestions for improving the Prestige Class. Tattooed monks are part of particular unusual monastic orders that inscribe their skin with various tattoos to grant them supernatural and magical abilities. Tattooed monks are said to speak in cryptic riddles, and they will tend to wander the countryside in groups, seeking enlightenment. As you go through the levels of this prestige class, you will gain more and more tattoos, which will give you more and more different abilities, some of which grow more powerful the more tattoos you have. To become a tattooed monk, you need a base attack bonus of +3, which, for the monk characters that you assume will be going into this prestige class, is pretty standard and almost a non-requirement. You also need the endurance feat, perhaps to endure the pain of all those tattoos, but endurance isn't really a monk feat, as you don't get any benefit from sleeping in armor, and you're not going to be doing a whole lot of overland sprinting in most cases. You also need improved grapple, which is a monk bonus feat, but to get it you will have to give up getting stunning fist, which tends to be the preferred option. You can take either of these feats on your own later on, but monks don't get many bonus feats, so this is going to eat up your precious few feat slots. Lastly, you're going to need 8 ranks in Knowledge Religion, which is going to take away from perhaps your stealth or perception skills, but it isn't too much of a commitment, even though, again, you do only have 4 plus your intelligence modifier skill ranks, which is not a lot. Lastly, you're going to need Improved Unarmed Strike, but again, like the base attack bonus of +3, this is almost a non-requirement, as monks get this automatically by level 5. As this prestige class eats up a skill and 1, maybe 2 feats, we're going to rate this prestige class as moderately restrictive, particularly because one of the feats is almost useless to the monk, and while the other feat is not useless, it does require you to take the less desirable option for your monk bonus feat at first level. The Tattooed Monk has a D8 hit die, same as the monk. It also gets 4 plus intelligence modifier skill points per level, again the same as the monk. In fact, this class is treated pretty much as a continuation of the monk class, even to the point where it allows you to continue increasing your monk abilities such as armor class bonus and unarmed damage with your levels in Tattooed Monk. Besides continuing to advance your monk abilities, the only class features that the Tattooed Monk has are your tattoos. You get 1 at each odd-numbered level, so 1st, 3rd, 5th, 7th, and 9th, which makes the 10th level of this prestige class a complete dead level. You can select these tattoos from a list provided with the prestige class. There are 30 of these tattoos to choose from, and you can select almost all of them at any level. We'll go through each one and give a brief description and a rating out of 10. The first tattoo option is the Arrowroot. A character with this tattoo can heal wounds in another character, not yourself, by touch. You can cure a total number of hit points equal to your wisdom bonus times your class level per day. You can divide this among multiple curing incidents, sort of like lay on hands, and this ability is very similar to that, except again, you cannot heal yourself. I would give this ability a 4 out of 10. It's a mediocre healing ability, and those are plentiful in the game, and odds are you either have a cleric or a wand to help out with that. Much of the benefit of a monk or paladin's self-healing ability is the ability to take some pressure off the cleric and especially to heal themselves, and for the monk this is important when they are scouting. While you tend not to have much time to heal yourself in those sorts of situations, if you do get trapped, it can be important to be able to carry a little bit of healing with you. Still, you can carry this in the form of potions and not have to give up a valuable class feature. The next option is the Bamboo tattoo. Once per day per tattoo you possess, so up to 5 at maximum, a character with this tattoo can add the number of tattoos he possesses as an enhancement bonus to his constitution score. This is going to last for 1 round per class level, and it's important to note that each of these tattoos can be activated as a move action, so this is going to take up some time if you'd use it in battle. This is a somewhat nice feature, but unless you start out with an odd-numbered constitution score, you're not even going to get any benefit from this one at first, if you take it early on. Later on, it will give you up to +5 constitution, but again, there are other ways to get this. This is also going to be a 4 out of 10. Next up is the Bat, which works as the Bamboo tattoo, but effectively giving cats grace rather than bears endurance. I'll give this a 3 out of 10 as your dexterity is not going to be quite as important, particularly at higher levels when things are going to be hitting you for the most part anyway. Next up is the Bellflower. Once per day per tattoo, you can add your Charisma modifier as an enhancement bonus to any of your ability scores, including Charisma itself, for 1 round per class level. This is a bit of an odd one and pretty unusual, as monks don't tend to have high Charisma. I suppose if you rolled very high Charisma or something, this could be useful, but otherwise it's not going to do much for you, and if you used Charisma as a dump stat, it's worse than useless. I'll give this a 1 out of 10. The Butterfly tattoo works as the bat and bamboo tattoos, but it gives you an enhancement bonus to your Wisdom score. This one I would give a 5 out of 10 simply because Wisdom powers so many monk abilities. However, you are going to be missing out on a lot of those sorts of abilities, which tend to come at higher levels of monk that you will not be getting, since you'll be taking levels of this prestige class instead. The Centipede tattoo allows you to use the Shadow Walk spell once per week, which effectively allows you to travel at 50 miles per hour through the shadow plane without great precision. This is not a bad effect, but the once per week limitation makes it really difficult to justify taking. I would give this one a 3 out of 10, perhaps a little higher in a campaign where that sort of travel ability is required, especially if you do not have a wizard or sorcerer or other character capable of casting teleport. The Chameleon tattoo allows you to use the Alter Self spell on yourself a number of times per day equal to the number of tattoos you have, for a duration equal to your class level. So eventually you'll be able to use this 5 times per day for up to 10 hours at a time each time. This is going to allow you to be altered just about as much as you want, which will be useful for infiltration adventures, but otherwise not much else. I would give this a 5 out of 10. The Crab tattoo gives you damage reduction 2/magic for each tattoo you have, so it's going to end up at damage reduction 10/magic by 10th level. Damage reduction is always great in a character. Even if it's easier to bypass than Barbarian damage reduction, it does end up numerically higher, and while there are a lot of creatures out there with damage reduction /magic or wielding magical weapons, this will still come up more often than not. So it is a good class feature to have, and I would give it a 7 out of 10. While this damage reduction is the same that you would be getting from the Perfect Self feature at level 20 of Monk, you do get it earlier at level 15, and you're gaining some damage reduction earlier than that, which is something that other monks aren't going to be able to do. The Dragonfly tattoo gives you a dodge bonus to your armor class equal to the number of tattoos you possess. So by 10th level, you're going to have a +5 dodge bonus to your armor class. Dodge bonuses always stack, so this is always a good type to have, and while increasing armor class can seem futile after a point, if you do really focus on it, the +5 you gain from this feature is going to be a strong step in the right direction. I would give this one a 7 out of 10. With the Chrysanthemum tattoo, you heal 1 hit point per class level per hour you spend in sunlight. This one would be a little bit more useful if most parties did not do their resting at night, but perhaps if you're in the desert or something, this could be a little bit more useful. Still, you're going to want to avoid sunburns. Daylight spell also does not provoke this fast healing. The ability specifies it has to be real sunlight, so if you're going on a long dungeon delve, it's going to be difficult to benefit from this feature. I would give this one a 2 out of 10. The Crane tattoo is a good way to get the Timeless Body feature early. When you first gain the tattoo, it gives you immunity to non-magical diseases. When you gain your next tattoo, whatever it is, you also gain immunity to poison from this one. And when you get your 3rd tattoo after Crane, you no longer take ability score penalties for aging, and you cannot be magically aged. So this will give you Timeless Body potentially at 12th level rather than 17th, which is a nice little benefit. While it doesn't come up in most campaigns, it is still nice to know that your monk will maintain his vitality throughout his entire lifespan. That said, I would still give this tattoo only a 4 out of 10 due to its situationality. The Dragon tattoo allows you to breathe fire as if you drunk an elixir of fire breath, once per day per tattoo you possess. While this is a fun and flavorful feature, and somewhat reminiscent of the fire-breathing ability of the Drunken Master Monk prestige class, it's not very good. For one thing, it's not an area of effect like many fire-breathing abilities are. It's going to do 4d6 damage to a single target, and the reflex save DC is pretty mediocre. This is going to get a 4 out of 10 also. The Falcon tattoo gives you immunity to fear, and gives your allies within 10 feet of you a morale bonus on their saving throws against fear effects equal to your charisma bonus. This is another odd one that relies on your charisma modifier. Perhaps this is meant for those certain monks that do have a high charisma, but it's not particularly helpful, particularly when you already have a mental stat associated with your monk abilities. While it is great to be immune to fear, and it is somewhat decent to give your allies a bonus against fear, it simply doesn't come up enough to really be worth taking, and this is going to get a 3 out of 10 also. The Lion Tattoo allows you to, once per day per tattoo, smite a foe, gaining a +4 on the attack and a bonus on the damage roll equal to your class level, so up to +4 to hit and +10 to damage on a single melee attack, with a move action to set it up. This unfortunately does not allow you to combine it with Flurry of Blows, seeing as it is a move action to activate, so that's a big detriment right there. You're getting +10 to damage, but you are missing out on all that extra damage that your Flurry of Blows could have done. This can't even be combined with something like Decisive Strike from Player's Handbook 2, which allows you to do one big unarmed strike for double damage, but as a full round action. This one's going to get a 3 out of 10 also, perhaps a 4. The Monkey Tattoo gives you +1 per tattoo that you have on Balance, Tumble, Escape Artist, and some other types of skill checks. It's good for sneaking, but most tumbling DCs are low enough that this isn't really necessary, except maybe if you're fighting a knight or something, and even then. This one's going to get a 3 out of 10 as it just isn't very useful. The Crescent Moon Tattoo allows you to, once per day, use Ethereal Jaunt as a spell-like ability. You have to be 9th level in Tattooed Monk, or at least 14th level overall, in order to gain this tattoo. It is a little bit weaker version of the Empty Body feature that monks get at 19th level, so you are gaining that 5 levels earlier, but again it is still just replacing a monk feature that you would have gotten anyway. That said, that still is worth something, so I would give this class feature a 7 out of 10. The Full Moon Tattoo allows you to, once per day, but only during the nighttime, get +2 on a single attack roll, ability check, or skill check. The Full Moon Tattoo allows you to, once per day per tattoo you have, and only during night, get a +2 bonus on any ability check, skill check, or attack roll. This ability can't be used with a saving throw, which is the sort of thing that you would want to use it on, and it must be declared beforehand. It also can only be used at night, while the sun version of this tattoo is arguably more useful, as it is the same but usable only during the day. Overall, both of these tattoos are only going to get a 4 out of 10. The Mountain Tattoo gives you an ability somewhat similar to the Dwarven Defender's defensive stance ability. This allows you to, for 1 round per class level, so long as you don't move, you get +4 to your Constitution and Wisdom scores. You get a -20 penalty on any dexterity-based skill checks, but you are also immune to Bull Rush and Trip attacks. This ability suffers from the same problem that the Dwarven Defender's ability does. Being unable to move is a big downside, especially for a melee character, and this gives much more mediocre bonuses than the Dwarven Defender's defensive stance does. This tattoo gets a 3 out of 10, maybe even a 2 out of 10. Mobility is a big part of the monk's identity, and this ability is the antithesis of that. The Nightingale Tattoo allows you to heal a number of hit points equal to twice your class level per day, either to yourself or to others. This is a bit like Wholeness of Body, but it can be shared with other party members. This sort of healing can be useful, but it's better off to leave this sort of thing for the cleric, or a wand. This is going to get a 3 out of 10 also. The Ocean Tattoo makes it so that you do not need to eat, sleep, or drink. This can be useful for keeping watch, but the other abilities are easily replaced by magic items that cost less than 5,000 gold. This one's going to get a 4 out of 10, simply because flavorfully it is interesting, but there are much better options. The Phoenix Tattoo requires you to be at least class level 7. It's going to give you spell resistance equal to your class level +15, or roughly your character level +10. Overall, this is decent spell resistance. By the time you're character level 12 and able to get this ability, it's already going to be better than what the Mantle of Spell Resistance is going to provide you for 90,000 gold. This feature does overlap a little bit with the spell resistance you'd get from Diamond Soul at level 13 of Monk, but it does allow you to get it a level earlier, and it also allows you to retain a Monk feature you otherwise would have missed out on. Overall, this one's going to get a 6 out of 10, and could possibly be a 7 or 8 in the right campaign. The Pine Tattoo gives you the Die Hard feat as a bonus feat, or Remain Conscious as they call it. Die Hard is a very situational feat, and not the kind of situation that you want to find yourself in. It gets less and less useful the higher level you are, as that margin of 10 hit points between unconsciousness and death grows narrower and narrower proportionally to how many hit points you have, and how much damage monsters are dishing out. This one's going to get a 3 out of 10. The Spider Tattoo requires you to have the Stunning Fist feat. It allows you to replace a Stunning Fist attack with an attack that delivers a contact poison. The save DC is going to be 10 plus your class level plus your constitution modifier, and the initial and secondary damage is going to be 2 points of con damage. Using this tattoo is going to count as one of your stunning fist attacks for the day. Poison, generally speaking, is a bad option, especially for characters, but this can be a decent one if you're attacking something with a weak fortitude save. However, in that case, you might as well use Stunning Fist. Even if the target fails both of their saving throws, they're going to lose 2 hit points per hit die, whereas the kind of damage that could be dealt by a Stunning Fist attack, both from the damage from the attack itself and the damage that your allies deal to the target while it's stunned and unable to react, will greatly outstrip that in almost every circumstance. This one's interesting flavorfully, but it's only going to get a 5 out of 10, and probably should be lower than that. The Scorpion Tattoo allows you to, once per day per tattoo, force an attacking opponent to use their lowest ability score in place of their attacking stat while making the attack roll. This will be intelligence or charisma for a lot of monsters, and this could give you possibly up to a 15 or 20 point penalty to their attack roll, effectively causing it to miss. Being able to negate an attack against you 5 times a day is going to be pretty useful, especially when some monsters have pretty nasty consequences tacked onto those attacks. That said, higher level monsters that have multi-attack are going to be able to make this a lot less useful, spreading their damage out over multiple attacks. In the end, this one's going to get a 6 out of 10 for helping your monk's survivability, particularly given that you only have a d8 hit die, and your constitution isn't going to be the greatest given how many ability points you have to spread between so many different abilities. However, this is also probably one of the most fun tattoos to use, especially to frustrate the Dungeon Master. The Tiger Tattoo gives you the ability to, once per day per tattoo, fight with a +1 bonus on attack rolls and deal an extra 1d6 points of damage when unarmed. This is going to last 1 round per class level, so at level 10 this will carry you for pretty much an entire combat, and you'll also have enough to use it for every single one of your expected 4 encounters per day, plus an extra random encounter if you run into one. This is a decent ability. Another bonus to attack rolls is always nice. The weakest part by far is the move action to activate it, but that's true of all of the tattoos. This one's going to get a 5 out of 10 overall. The Tortoise Tattoo can be quite useful for shoring up the skill weaknesses in your party. Once per day per tattoo, you can use your class level as a number of ranks in a skill you do not have for the purpose of one skill check. So if you need to do a use magic device check or a heal check or a open lock check or anything like that, you can do that a limited number of times per day. This ability can add a lot of versatility to your monk and your party as a byproduct. There are a lot of skills that don't really come up until they come up, at which point you really need them, and that's when this ability can really save the day. This one will get a 7 out of 10. The Unicorn Tattoo allows you to re-roll a d20 roll you've just made before knowing the actual results of the roll, and you must take the second result. This can be used on any d20 roll. Understandably, such a powerful ability is limited to only 1 use per day, but still, this is quite a tempting option. Being able to re-roll a natural 1 on a saving throw against a death spell, or on a tumble check to avoid an attack of opportunity that might kill you, or any other sort of situation, is going to be immensely useful. You might think that 1 roll per day isn't very much, but when you need to make it, it's going to really make a difference. This one will get an 8 out of 10. The Wasp Tattoo will allow you to use haste on yourself once per day per tattoo you have. It's going to last a number of rounds equal to your class level, which is going to be sufficient for most fights. Haste is great for any character intending to make attack rolls, and the monk certainly fits into that category. This is going to get an 8 out of 10 because it's going to allow you to eventually be hasted in pretty much every combat without having to take any spells from your party wizard. Lastly, the White Mask Tattoo makes you immune to detect thought spells, detect lies, and any attempts to magically discern your alignment. It also gives you a +10 bonus on all bluff checks. While this doesn't make you immune to some of the more powerful divination techniques such as scrying, this tattoo could be useful in some campaigns, such as ones with heavy focus on magical intrigue, but for most D&D campaigns, you're not going to want to pick this tattoo. It's going to get a 3 out of 10. Overall, this prestige class provides you a dizzying array of options for tattoos to take, and it has some neat flavor behind its abilities. While most of the tattoos are mediocre options at best, the ones that are worth taking are probably worth giving up some of those later on monk abilities, and can even substitute in for some of them. The Scorpion, Phoenix, Unicorn, Tortoise, Crab, and Dragonfly tattoos rank among the best to take, at least in most D&D campaigns. Some of the more situational ones can still be used in particular campaigns. By the time you get to taking this prestige class, you're going to know a lot about what your campaign is like and what sort of abilities are going to be good for overcoming the challenges placed before you, or that you find yourself. Overall, I would give this class 5 stars for flavor and 3 stars for execution. While it could have used a lot more viable options among the tattoos, the ones that it does provide are quite good, and they are also quite varied in their capabilities. The compatibility with Monk, both allowing you to continue advancing abilities and to continue advancing in Monk as well, is also a huge plus. The biggest change I would make to this prestige class would be to make activating a tattoo a swift action in almost all cases. Having to use a move action to activate one of these tattoos means that you better be activating it before combat starts, and that's not always an option. You could be ambushed, or you could simply run into some enemies and have combat begin immediately. In that case, you're going to have to give up a precious move action in order to activate tattoos such as the Wasp tattoo. You've already got a lot to use your actions for as a monk, and activating these tattoos should not be one of the things you have to spend an action doing. As for builds to get into this prestige class, it is pretty much going to be Monk, as it does require some specific Monk class features to get into. You could consider dipping into Fighter or Rogue, possibly with some of the feats that go along with that for multi-classing, but you will at least need to take some Monk levels, and it probably is best to stick with Monk to get into this prestige class. So that's about it for this prestige class review. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, and so on. Let me know if you disagree with any of my ratings, and let me know what prestige class you'd like for me to review next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.